Somewhere in your organization this week, someone is asking to use a new AI tool, a meeting note taker, a contract summarizer, a coding assistant. And the decision about whether they can will probably be made the way these decisions usually get made. In a hallway, off a demo, by whoever feels strongly about it. Nothing is written down. That's the gap this video closes. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through an AI risk assessment, the actual document, section by section on screen. It's the structured version of this question, should we allow this? The template is linked below for free, no email gate. You don't need a risk department to use it. You need about an hour per tool. All right, there's two failure modes here, and an unassessed organization runs both at once. The first is the rubber stamp, a tool that looks useful. Some senior likes it. It's approved by enthusiasm. 6 months later, you discover the note taker was recording client calls and that the vendor's terms let them train on the transcripts. Nobody decided that. It just happened because nobody asked the questions in order. The second is a reflexive no. Everything gets blocked because assessing it feels like work, and the people who need the tool go use it anyway on personal accounts, outside your visibility. You didn't remove the risk, you just lost the ability to see it. The assessment is how you say yes safely and no defensibly. And half its value isn't in the analysis at all, it's the record. When someone asks in a year, why did we allow this? There's a documented answer with a date and a name on it. Decisions without records get relitigated forever. Now, these requests land on my desk every week, and I'll admit the hallway version is tempting over time. The form exists to protect the decision from my own enthusiasm as much as anyone else's. All right, section 1. What we're actually assessing is the use case. It sounds obvious. It's where most assessments quietly fail because can we use this AI tool is not a use case. The real unit of assessment is the tool plus the task plus the data. The same tool can be low risk for one job and unacceptable for another. So you write it down plainly. Which tool, which vendor, what tasks it performs, who use it, and roughly how many people. And one line on the value, what it replaces or speeds up. If nobody can articulate the value in one sentence, that tells you something too. Then the field that matters most and gets skipped most, autonomy. Does this thing suggest, draft, or act? A tool that proposes text a human then edits is one animal. A tool that sends the email, files the document, or executes the change on its own is a different animal wearing the same fur. Think cruise control versus handing over your keys. The rest of the assessment reads differently depending on this answer, so pin it down first. All right. Now, data exposure. This is the section that changes more decisions than any other. What goes into the tool? Start with classification. Is the data public, internal, confidential, or client and regulated material? Be honest about the worst case, not the intended case. The pitch says just meeting summaries. But if the meetings are client calls, the data is client data. Classify what will actually flow through it once people stop being careful, which is roughly a week or two. Then where it goes. Where is the data processed and stored, and does that violate any residency commitments you've made? If you've promised clients that their information stays in your country, a tool that processes prompts outside of that region isn't a nuance. It's a contradiction with your own contracts. And then the vendor behavior questions. Does the vendor retain prompts? For how long? Do they train on them? Is there an opt-out? And is it actually switched on in your tenant? That last clause matters. An opt-out that exists but isn't configured is a fact about the vendor, not about your deployment. Treat this section like a home inspection. You can still buy the house with a questionable roof, but you buy it knowing and you price it in and you write the condition into the deal. All right. Now, vendor and deployment. Next, who's behind the tool and which version of it you're actually getting? Deployment tier first. Is it consumer or pro or enterprise? The free tier of a product is frequently a different product with the same name. Different data terms, different admin controls, different logging. When someone says the vendor's fine, they have an enterprise offering. The question is whether you're on it. Then the paper. Is there data processing agreement in place, confidentiality terms, the training opt-out in writing rather than in a blog post? and the attestations, SOC 2, ISO 27001, whatever your bar is. You're not auditing them from scratch. You're checking that someone credible already has. Last, model provenance. Which underlying models does the tool call? Where are they hosted? Plenty of AI products are a thin layer over someone else's model, which means your data's real journey has more stops than the vendor's homepage shows. You want the full route, not just the first leg. All right, section 4, the output risk. So section 4 flips the direction. Never mind what goes in, what comes out, and what happens if it's wrong. Trace where the output lands. Is it an internal draft a human reworks, an input to a decision, or something client-facing? The blast radius of a fabricated sentence is completely different at each stop. A hallucinated line in an internal brainstorm costs nothing. The same line in a client deliverable costs trusts you don't get back at the same price you paid for it. Now, section 5 is the control for that, human oversight. 2 entries, a named accountability owner, a person, not a committee, and the review rule before output gets used for anything that matters. The operating principle is the same one from my Copilot policy video. The person who uses the output owns the output. There is no "the AI wrote it" defense. Once that's written down, most of the output risk in section 4 becomes manageable instead of scary. Notice how these 2 sections work as a pair. High output risk with strong oversight can be an approval. High output risk with no named owner is how incidents get their names. Section 6. This section has one job, and it's not the job people expect. You are not answering legal questions here. You're routing them. So let's go through the flags. Does this use case touch privileged or confidential material, personal information, what jurisdiction, any regulatory or professional obligations, the rules of whatever profession or industry you operate in, any intellectual property questions about what the tool produces? For each one, the assessment records that the question exists and names who it went to. That's it. The moment a risk assessment starts drafting legal conclusions, it's exceeded its authority, and yours, unless you're qualified. Flag it, route it, record the answer when it comes back. The discipline of not answering is what keeps this document usable by non-lawyers. All right, section 7, the ratings and decision block. So this is the payoff. Each section you just filled in gets a rating, low, medium, or high, with one line of reasoning each. Resist the urge to build something fancier. Every organization I've watched go down the scoring matrix road ends up with a 40-cell spreadsheet that produces a number that nobody trusts and everybody games. 3 levels and a sentence of reasoning is enough because the score was never the point. The documented reasoning is the point. 1 escalation rule keeps it honest. Any single high rating means the decision escalates to whoever owns AI governance where you work. Highs don't get averaged away by a friendly total. Then the decision itself, there are 4, not 2. Approve with conditions, pilot with constraints, or decline. The middle 2 do most of the real work. Approved for internal documents only, or no client data, revisit in 90 days, is a far more useful answer than a yes or no. It lets you capture the value while the risks stay fenced. Write the conditions down exactly, because an unwritten condition is just a rumor. Now, section 8, the review and expiry. This is the last one, and it's the one that separates a control from a keepsake. Every approval gets an expiry date. Should be 6 to 12 months out, and shorter for anything agentic. Approvals should expire like passports, not last like tattoos, because the thing you assessed will not hold still. Vendors swap underlying models, ship new features, and quietly change terms. The tool you approved in January is not the tool running in October. So you also list the reassessment triggers. The vendor changes the model or terms. The tool grows new capabilities, especially anything that moves from suggesting to acting, or usage creeps past the use case in section 1. Any trigger fires, the assessment reopens. AI without operations is just a demo, and a risk assessment without an expiry date and an owner is just a demo of diligence, a snapshot of a moving object filed somewhere that no one looks. That's the whole instrument, the use case and its autonomy level, the data going in, the vendor behind it, the output coming out, the human accountable for it, the legal questions routed to someone qualified, a 3-level rating with a written decision, and an expiry date that keeps it alive. 1 document, and about an hour per tool. And the hour pays for itself the first time someone asks, why did we approve this? And you have an answer instead of an archaeology project. The template's linked in the description, free, no email required. Take it, run it against one tool this week, ideally the one everybody's already using without permission. Have your legal owner look at Section 6 before you treat any of it as settled. It's a working document, not legal advice. The tools are coming into your organization either way. The only question is whether anyone's writing down the decision.